gang, gang. Hey, nothing but love and respect. You might have some cool fans, but mine are the best. We've been through it all, went to war when duty called. Never left a man behind, we move as one is super strong. I don't want followers, that implies I'm the leader. I'm not the captain, I just gave them something they can believe in. I hold the lamp in the darkness, but they're the light that I needed to see the road that we walk in between the angels and demons. And my fans have my back. Hate us if your feelings don't like facts. And my fans will fight back. Beat you with the keyboard you've been using to write back. I guess we need each other like both sides of the battery. We the army, we the homies, we the gang, we the cavalry. We're brothers and sisters, we hold it down like we gravity. Can't nobody break the bond that made us all family.
Oklahoma weather can dish out some of the worst punishment in the world. Hi everyone, I'm meteorologist Aaron Tuttle. But now you can fight back by installing Class 4 impact-resistant shingles from Ferguson Roof Systems. These shingles can withstand large hail, heavy rain, and hurricane-force winds, all while keeping your home safe and dry. And the best part? This upgrade is completely free for many homeowners. So call today to start reaping the benefits these Class 4 shingles bring, including a discount on home insurance. Only at FergusonRoofSystems.com.
Hey there, meteorologist Aaron Tuttle back with you again. It is about 11:42 on the dot here. We're going to talk about your severe weather aspects here for today. We'll see if anything's changed. We're going to kind of fine-tune some stuff for you. Tell you about what you can watch for, when it'll move in, all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, we're probably dealing with another round of a few tornadoes out there over Oklahoma. So thanks for watching, liking, sharing, telling your friends and family about AT's weather. Make sure you hit that share button while you watch this live broadcast. Out there currently, cloudy. We do have some clouds out there, not a lot of sun. Atmosphere is a little different today than it was on Sunday. And then things will actually kind of become more unstable as the day goes on. And temperatures out there right now, I have 71 degrees here at my house. It's pretty nice, and winds aren't bad. They're pretty light. But the air mass that we have here over central Oklahoma is going to moisten up and become a little bit more unstable as moisture from Texas works in across Red River today. And that'll set the stage to change some things. Now out there right now, as that moisture starts to surge to the north, it is making its way over western Oklahoma. So this is kind of the moisture axis right now across the state in this direction, moving in from the south to the north. Now, you are going to get a few of these little light showers that develop off that moisture axis and then move off to the northeast. So don't be surprised to see a few little spotty showers here over central Oklahoma as we go throughout the course of the early part of this afternoon. They will not be severe, but you might get a brief, really short downpour that won't amount to a whole lot in the rainfall bucket, but that's just what's happening out there currently. Now, if you have not had a chance yet, make sure you download my weather app. It's called AT's Weather to Go. It actually predicts tornadoes before they develop. It uses proprietary algorithms and then says, you know what? We think this storm is going to produce a tornado, therefore it sends you an alert. Now that alert goes directly to your custom GPS location. So if you don't have it, this app does something no other app can do. So make sure you download it. Go to my website, aarontuttle.weather.com. Again, that's just my name, followed by weather.com. And you can go up here to the top where it says app, and you'll see the tab that says AT's Weather to Go app overview. In that, it'll tell you how the app works. It'll give you links to the Play stores. You can download it. A little tutorial video on how you can set it up, and some of those little Easter eggs that you can find on the app on how you can do your own storm tracks and find out what's in the storms themselves. It also talks about the tornado index, which is very important because it kind of gives you a ranking as to the probability of a tornado coming your direction. So extremely important, so make sure you hit that up today. All right, so here's a look at the severe weather threat for this afternoon. We're still under a enhanced risk in northwest Oklahoma. It does stretch though into Canadian counties, you noticed. Slight risk elsewhere in the yellow, and then green is the marginal. Up to baseball-size hail, so the hail categories come up a little bit. Wind speeds have now still stayed in the category between 60 and 80, but the tornado potential has gone up to medium. So it's kind of similar to what we had on Sunday. Now, the tornado threat here from the National Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center highlights this area into northwestern Oklahoma, but I will tell you, and we'll look at the data here in a minute, that any of these supercells that develop in this region and move in this direction, in my opinion, will likely also contain tornadoes. So it may not be in this zone, so don't look at the color codings as gospel. If there's going to be a supercell in this environment today, it's going to likely produce. All right. Timing on this from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. out across western Oklahoma, 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Now this timing I'm not really too settled with. Like I said, I think we're getting an early round here in the 8 to 9 o'clock window in southwest Oklahoma, and these will move to the north and east. So without that said, this is mainly for the main line that comes in later on that forms off the dry line. I still think we're going to have a little early show before that. Here's a look at the severe weather also for eastern Oklahoma, slight risk up to the north and west of Tulsa. So the reason for this is that storms are expected to weaken. Of course, it's going to be well after dark by the time they arrive here. We're talking, after midnight into the early dawn hours. And because of that, the storms usually have a tendency to be much weaker because it's just the wrong time of the day to produce severe weather. If we look at the visible satellite picture, put this in motion for you, you do see this little corridor of moisture I talked about showing up in the Q field, in the cumulus congestus, which is all that moisture starting to pile up as instability starts to work back in. So again, here in Oklahoma City, as you saw in my weather observations, other than some cloud cover, things are actually looking pretty good. Well, this atmosphere is starting to replace it slowly but surely. Okay, so let's get on with how the latest model data indicates things may play out today. And this is looking at the high-res HER model. And remember those little showers out there now? This is kind of picking up on those here for our lunchtime through noon into the early part of the afternoon. That little wave moves on off. And then we watch for around 6 to 7 o'clock. So this is going to be the kind of the key point here. Do these supercells develop down here because of the weakly capped atmosphere and that theta E axis? And the answer is yes, that can happen. It does happen. So this is what, and the models have also been playing around with starting here, starting here, starting here. So they're not going to know the exact start method because in a theta E axis, which is just a warm tongue of moisture, right, in this vicinity, they can pop anywhere in that axis, which is why they're having a tough time deciding where to go. It's a very subtle kickoff, not a brute forcing type event. So regardless, this is at 7 o'clock, this is 8 o'clock, and this is 9 o'clock. So this would be a tornadic supercell coming into the western sides of the metro should this particular model view verify. And then as a low-level jet kicks in, which is a region of winds just off the surface around 40 to 50 knots, that will also help to create additional instability and fire off additional showers and storms. In addition to what's coming on from the west, as that energy also kicks in. And some of these, it almost has like 2 rounds of potential supercells. This is at 10 o'clock at night, so that would be nighttime tornadoes if so. And then finally the panhandle lights up, and you get more storms that fire. There's 12 o'clock in the morning, there's 1 o'clock, and some of these, again, could be tornadic. As we head on into 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., the line starts to solidify into a squall line. Now, in this particular case, you kind of transition the atmosphere down in intensity a little bit to some pockets of damaging wind and hail, and sometimes a QLCS type leading edge tornado, which is a very weak, short-lived one. So that is kind of what the models are kind of hinting at this point in time. When we look at the shear profile in the atmosphere, the instability and the Kate values, as I put this in motion, watch how this kind of changes. Remember last night we talked about the angle, what you see on the map. If these little arrow barbs look like this, that means there's a lot of spinning in the atmosphere. There's a lot of room for the atmosphere to twist. If they're like this, not much atmospheric twisting, therefore no tornado threat. But the more they are into this fashion, the better the tornado risk, and the stronger the supercell. And we've got the favorable wind shear all across Oklahoma for that. Now this is 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Now, if you've noticed, the Kate values coming in here are along that theta E axis I mentioned, hence the trigger for those storms to try to fire off at 6 p.m. Now, what kind of environment are they developing on in that area that may cause a thunderstorm? Well, the shear profile indicates a nice turning direction with height, nice uniform speed, great hodograph, Possible hazard type of a tornado, classic supercell structure. Significant hail up to 3 inches in diameter. Significant supercells in the past analogs. Lifting condensation level this time around is very low compared to yesterday. It's about half the distance, which should make it easier to produce a tornado. And again, the photograph looking good. So this is what the environment the models are suggesting that these storms go up in. And there was no cap in that picture as well. So as we go to 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 10 o'clock, what you notice is that field of instability continues to push into Oklahoma and also into central Oklahoma. So what happens, though, when those storms erupt down here and they move to the northeast, this is the million-dollar question. Does this axis of instability travel with it, or do the storms eventually outrun and get off that instability axis? And my answer is it should get off the instability axis. The question is where, because where that happens is where the risk or the severity of that cell will quickly diminish. And it looks like as it's coming right into the Oklahoma City metro area, that is when it will diminish. So as long as that happens, we're in good shape. It's going to be a fine line. So what does that mean for you in layman's terms? That means these supercell storms out here will be rough, tough, producing probably a couple of tornadoes as they approach into the Oklahoma City metro. And if things go well and it gets just off that instability axis, then the atmosphere stabilizes a little bit more, and then that helps to reduce either the intensity or just kill the storm altogether. Either way, that's good news. But as you see with time, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, time is not on our side, as eventually that instability axis does come in. So it's kind of a timing thing. If those storms go a little early, they may have a tough time hanging in there once they get into Canadian Oklahoma counties. If not, they're maybe just an hour later. This is a pure timing deal. It's a complicated outcome here. Now that's looking at the HER model, which is our best high resolution model that we have. The newer one that we're using in development is the FV3. So it has a similar look. You do see a supercell down there in southwest Oklahoma. It's actually got a couple of them that blow up by the 6 o'clock hour. So there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And then they kind of die out here in eastern Oklahoma. So this has a much different approach to the instability, and it thinks that the instability axis will actually shift eastwards with it enough to keep those storms going here well into central Oklahoma. And here is this instability axis. Let me see here. Oh, it's going to eat it away because of the storms. I hate when it does that. All right, that won't tell us anything that you'll be able to see. Okay, so then we'll move on to the significant tornado parameter from the HER model. This is that high resolution model. It's at 6 o'clock. So the stronger the ingredients, the brighter the color on the screen. So up here till 10, it maxes out here just off the charts. And we're into the 4 to 5 to 6 range, coming up to 7 here in southwest Oklahoma by 6 o'clock. So that is that tornadic ingredients here for those storms. And you can see that blows up even more at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9, 10, 11. And so you can see how most of this ingredients is in the western half of the state. So this is, for your reference, this is I-35 right here. Okay, so you can see how most of these ingredients are just west of I-35, and that's where the strongest potential storms would be. They would feed into that environment. Let's see. So there's what was that, midnight? There's 1, 2, and 3 in the morning. So you can see the ingredients do wane with time, but it is a slow process for it to completely get to almost a non-significant value. So that just means the shear and the instability tonight will continue well after dark, which likely means, we may have to deal with a few of those tornadic type storms. Okay, so let me do this real quick, and we'll see how it plays out for your neck of the woods here, hour by hour. And we did this last night, and we'll do it again today. Now this is based off, it's the 12Z run. Okay. So the 12Z run is going to be just a little different than the ones we just looked at, because it was the one that just came hot off the presses. But it should tell us the general idea. We'll see if I want to use it. I haven't looked at this yet on this display, so we'll see if I still want to use it. We'll just play it by ear here. Okay, so there's 6 o'clock. So here's 7 o'clock down here in southwest Oklahoma. So it kind of gives you the idea. The models do favor that area for these supercells to try to get going. And they do make their way into west central Oklahoma about 8 o'clock. And then by 9 o'clock here in the Canadian county. And it points out to the west, southwest, still down there toward Lawton. So this is a nice cluster of supercells that would have potential of the damaging winds and large hail and, yes, likely a couple of tornadoes. Now, those will move off to the northeast. There's 10 o'clock. Here is 11. Look how they kind of weaken. So this older data, and this older data meaning the one that came out about 6 hours ago, seems to think that it's going to run into that brick wall of a lack of instability. And that is key to seeing if those things weaken. And then it's got that secondary round out here out west at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. These things kind of keep on going, developing into a squall line here in the early morning hours. And then that kind of moves on through. The question, of course, is this particular early run thought these would weaken due to the storms that were already in our area, providing a little bit of subsidence. I think that'll be an error. I don't think it's going to weaken that fast. So we're going to discount that, which is why I wasn't sure if I wanted to use this. Let me use the latest one and see. Okay, this run changes. Good. Okay. This is better. So this is based off the one we just looked at. So it won't be much different, but these runs go every hour. So the data gets reanalyzed every hour. Every time conditions change in the atmosphere, it's fed into it. So there's 7 o'clock. There's that supercell we talked about around Hobart, Cordell in the data. Let's see, there's 8 o'clock that makes its way in toward the western sides of Canadian County. 9 o'clock, for example, going through Canadian County. And this is just an approximation. It will never be exact. The models are not that good. What you want to focus on is the trend of a few supercells down there, and additional ones forming out in western Oklahoma at 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock going through the Weatherford, Watonga area, heading up toward Fairview here at the 11 o'clock hour. Those still going up on I-35 up here in northern Oklahoma at 11 o'clock. And there's 12 a.m. And then we're back out here in western Oklahoma where the final round comes in at 1 o'clock in the morning. There's 2. There's 3. And this is the squall line itself. It'll have pockets of wind and hail with it. Sometimes you can get a little spin up, what we call a QLCS tornado along the leading edge. But that only goes until 4 o'clock in the morning. It's a very short run model. And even then it's trying to produce additional cells out ahead of that line. So in that environment, any cells you get out ahead of it are usually either supercellular or kind of a hybrid. And those have a better potential at producing a tornado. So the tornado threat really pretty much goes on through the early part of the overnight hours. We did notice at 3 o'clock in the morning, those parameters started to really dissipate. So that's good news. So any of these new additional storms in that environment won't have the same ingredients that the other storms had to work with. So hopefully that means a little calmer outcome. Temperature-wise, by the way, of course, we're in the 70s today and 70s the next few days. And 70s and 60s will be the rule, hopefully going on here on out for October. Overnight lows will be in the 40s and 50s out there. So that kind of gets you acclimated as well. Okay, so to round it up, in case you're late to the party and you missed out, bottom line is we have more supercell storms expected today out in west and southwest Oklahoma. Those will drift into parts of central Oklahoma, close to the I-35 corridor by later this evening. We're probably talking around 9, 10 o'clock again. They'll likely produce a few tornadoes along the way. The question is, there's a line in the sand instability axis that they form on. And if they get too far off that axis, they start to weaken. So right now the models favor them weakening once they start to get in Oklahoma City greater metro area. So in other words, expand your view of, include all the towns around Oklahoma City is what I mean by that greater metro area. So as it comes into that region, they weaken. So fingers crossed that continues. It is, like I said, it's a fine line in the sand, and we'll be able to see it in the short term. Here, I mean, we're getting into a better window, but to really nail that answer, it'll have to happen within, a couple of hours of the event or during the event as we track it in. We can look at other surface parameters and then watch the trend of the rate of the storms themselves as to whether or not they intensify or they start to weaken to get that answer for sure. But that right now is what's on the table in the forecast as far as what we can look at now. That round moves again across parts of west central Oklahoma during the evening hours. Another round, a couple of supercells may form after that one, and a little bit more into western Oklahoma around 9 o'clock, 8, 9 o'clock, and those will travel to the east-northeast. The trajectory on all these storms will be northeast, unless they produce a tornado, in which case they will move more to the east. That's how the path will be for tonight. Then we'll have the final line, squall line, coming out of Kansas, back building into the panhandles of both Texas and Oklahoma, and then that squall line will then move east well after, or probably after midnight, so 1 o'clock in the morning out there in northwest Oklahoma, and then that kind of moves on to the east into central Oklahoma, the I-35 corridor, say around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, something like that, and then continues into Tulsa, about 6 a.m. So, but it should be extremely weak by the time it heads toward the Tulsa area and points south from there. I would say once it hits I-35 corridor, the intensity should start to vaporize pretty quick. So that's kind of how I'm envisioning it, the outcome. So that's what it looks like for today. I do plan on broadcasting live because I do expect some tornadoes again. The atmosphere looks like it's similar to Sunday. So I do expect a few tornadoes. So I'll be live probably starting around, it depends on when those first storms develop in southwest Oklahoma. If these models are right, about 6 o'clock is when we'll start to pay attention to that. And then it'll be another, it'll go until I go to bed. So last night Sunday night it was 6.5 hours of me sitting in this chair. I just realized I didn't drink, I didn't eat, I didn't go to the bathroom. How did I manage that 6.5 hours? But we'll probably do that again tonight, and then hopefully everybody will be safe. And that's the plan. That's the goal, is to find every single tornado we can and warn you about well in advance, so that everybody can seek shelter in plenty of time and everybody's families can stay safe. I'm just the middleman. God is the designer. He gave me the input. He gave me the brains. He gave me the path that I could take to be here where I am today. So I'm very appreciative of that. And I'm going to use all of that gift and the knowledge that I've learned to help you, so that you can then protect your family, your friends, relatives. So it's just a help each other out situation. Again, if you haven't had my weather app yet, go ahead and get it. AT's Weather to Go. Download it, Apple, Google Play. Set it up to get your alerts. You can do your kids in various homes. You can do your grandparents. You can do anyone. You get 16 different locations you can add. So if a specific or if a tornado is coming to that specific location, you will get the alert, and it'll be up to about 15 minutes in advance, which is a lot of time to seek shelter. It's a lot of time to round up whatever you got to do at the last minute. Try not to depend too much on sirens. Those are usually used at the last resort. You really want to use other sources of information first. They may not work, they may malfunction, they may not mean what you think it means. There's a lot of variance in that. So my app will be more fine-tuned, GPS location. I can't say that about other apps. I don't speak on their behalf. Most of them are a lot more broad and generalized. But mine will only alert you when you need to be alert. It's kind of like Chicken Little phenomenon. You don't want to be warned about everything that's not going to affect you, because then you start to lose, your attention to it. So it'll only warn you if it's immediately going to affect you, and that's important. So if you get an alert, don't discredit it, okay? And then finally, on my website I mentioned, AaronTuttleWeather.com, the overview for the app is on there, so you can learn a lot more about it. But in a nutshell, the 0 through 10 rating you're going to get when the BTI comes out, think of it as a scale of severity, just like a pain threshold. If I come up to you and say, hey, how's the pain in your shoulder today? It's a 3. All right, well, it's not that big of a deal, right? And you tell me it's a 7 or an 8, I'm like, ooh, we better get you some medication for that. Or if it's a 10, ooh, we better get you the ER. So think of that connection when you're looking at the BTI rating for a tornado. If it's on the low end, the storm's spinning, it's got some ingredients in there, we better watch it. If it's a 4, 5, or 6, ooh, it's getting pretty close. I'd probably get ready to head to the shelter just to be on the safe side. Maybe we've been heading there. If it's a 7, 8, 9, 10, you better already hit the deck, because it's a bona fide tornado, and you got whatever minutes that you have left to get to where you need to be in your safe place, which is always the lowest part of your home or building structure. Business doesn't matter. All away from all outside walls and windows. Find something interior. It can be a closet, stairwell, whatever it may be, a bathtub, whatever you want to do. If you can grab mattress pads, you can grab anything that protects you from flying debris. Blankets, even something that simple, of course, will help. Kids, helmets, and sporting gear, all that kind of stuff. Just have it ready. Odds are you won't even need it. Remember, in this environment, 99.9% of us never see a thing. It's that 0.1%. If you're ready, then you're ready and you're good. So you got to be prepared. And then if you have anything that you just can't live without, for example, you just got to have with you at all the time. So some of that may be medication. It could be, your driver's license, whatever is important to you that you're going to need. Immediately, that would become a really big hassle to replace later. pack that up with you like in a little, backpack or something, just so you can have it close by. And don't forget your shoes. Feet are the number one injury after a tornado goes through, because you are usually half naked and you're walking out on what's left of a lot of structure, which has a lot of nails poking through. So usually the rubble, you get a lot of nails in that. So make sure you got some adequate footwear to help in that situation always. And that's all I got for you. All right, well, I'll be here again live for you this evening, so make sure you join me then, and we will track these tornadoes and keep you safe. I appreciate your loyalty, appreciate your patience, your support, all that kind of stuff, and we'll do it again tonight. All right, take care, guys.